We check 1, 2. Ladies and gentlemen of the crypto space, we're live at 11:30, 8 a.m. Wednesday, April 21st, and it is a hot day. We got crazy stuff going on. We're coming off a very depreciative weekend, I guess you could say that, and the markets are pulling back up. I haven't looked too much at the macro narrative going on, but I see some hints that gold is experiencing some attention, which is good to see. It's strange how we see correlation with equities markets concerning the crypto space, and then inverse correlation. Well, we'll see correlation with precious metals, and inverse correlation with equities. It's strange how it flip flops. We don't really quite know whether long term we're going to have correlation with equities or value storage type assets, or traditional value storage type assets, precious metals in particular. But in any case, price action today for the crypto space looks pretty darn good, putting smiles on people's faces. We're going to figure out what's going on with a hot narrative that has a very short time horizon. And that's where we could potentially capitalize. And that's where we need to remain rational, because when we have an opportunity on our hands, we tend to think more emotional rather than rational. Peering through the FOMO. It's not that easy. So that's the whole point. It's not easy to peer through the emotions associated with potentially imminent significant price appreciation. So let's do that. Today's episode is sponsored by Change Angel, the non-custodial swap exchange for social good. Stop depositing on exchanges, not your keys, not your crypto, non-custodial DeFi, or nothing at all. Bam, let's pop it over to the main screen and see who's in the stream. Got Captain Weber in the room. Yes, always a pleasure, my brother. Brad's in the house, back from holiday. Welcome. Igor, Squanchy, RR, Taiki, uh, Hoppin, hoping you can go over your decision to sell Visor Method sometime in the stream. This whole stream is going to be talking about that stuff, my friend. Let's do it. Waves in the house. Lewis. Lewis is in the house. Always a pleasure. Squanchy, yes, what Tiki said. That's right. Let's do it. Josh, welcome. 32 people in the stream, 18 likes. We're doing pretty good, but we can do better. All right, so the hot narrative that it's on everyone's mind is Uniswap V3. I brought this topic up. I was a little bit late because this topic was brought up obviously by Chico, and he talked about Alchemist as well. I watch him from time to time, so I saw his Alchemist presentation. I don't do anything he says. I've never bought anything he says. I know the second he does, 1,001 people are going to do it. I just don't have interest in doing anything that anyone says. I have my own path. I have my own assets. I have my own choices. I follow my own narrative. I tell my own stories. My interest in these four particular assets came about because of Uniswap V3 and understanding technologically what NFT LP positions entailed. So it was a natural, organic evolution of the way I viewed the narrative playing out over the short term as Uni V3 approaches its relatively imminent launch date. So, um, obviously, rationally, if the vast majority of market actors can no longer interact with V2 positions as they historically did, removing a portion of their equity or reinvestment being automated, there's going to be a significant disruption in the normalcy of their capacity to interrupt with their favorite AMM, which is Uniswap. There's so many AMMs, and for some reason, Uniswap was always the front runner. It has the network effect, even though you have crazy awesome stuff going on with ridiculously novel monetary policy on platforms like Bancor. And Bancor was around way before Uniswap was ever made public. Bancor has been around since the last cycle, the last crypto cycle, doing things, innovative things, and arguably their AMM tech is from 2017. Predating any of the prevailing AMMs in the crypto space. But that's besides the point. The point is we play the markets as they are. And Uniswap is the platform with the network effect. We won't dig in. We dug in already a little bit into the history of AMMs and how they came about. but we play the markets as they are, and that is the case for Uniswap. Okay, point being, when Uniswap V3 launches, 200,000 people are going to Google search the definition of fungibility, and they're going to be doing the exact same investigation that you're currently doing. And, you know, the earliest person to probably understand this was Chico when he was talking about Alchemist. Um, Alchemist was probably around $60, 50, $60. So it's up about 300% from his observation of the concept of the narrative that we're talking about right now. I got Alchemist at about 90. Was a little less, might have been a little less. So I bought position at 100, and I bought some more at like 130. Now it's at 150, which is pretty cool. Being that I unloaded my visor and method at about one last night at 100, and then some more at the 120, 130 region. I did pad my XTK position, which is obviously X token. X token has um, significance, particularly because they've dealt with the ERC20 DAO assets, facilitating automated compounding. And that's meaningful, which means they have a capacity to iterate their platform and pivot into the Uniswap v3 narrative. Now, Alchemist is a the same developer who created the Token Forge v2 for Ampleforth. That has pretty much critical mass meaning unto itself. Um, so Token Forge v2 was built, and then Alchemist, the same developer, created these types of NFT vault structures, and they called it the Universal Vault Standard. And it played right into the Uniswap v3 tech stack that's dropping it real quick in less than a month at this point. And off of Alchemist was forked Visor and Method. Uh, Very different tokenomics. Method is highly inflationary. The emissions are massive, a couple thousand%, depending on the NFT that you hold. Visor is significantly inflationary, significantly less inflationary than Method, um, but still quite inflationary. So, what's pertinent with regard to that brief topic of monetary policy is inflationary assets not coupled with deflationary pressures create monetary debasement. Basically, the stuff we talk about in the legacy financial system. And it's essentially why Rook has had a wild ride. It is a decaying inflationary emission schedule, which is fine. Bitcoin's a decaying inflationary asset. Um, but the reason why a lot of the assets in the DeFi space have done so well is because of protocol components that offer deflationary pressures, such as incentivized supply disruption, staking. Like Badger has done well because you're able to lock your Badger paired with Ethereum, and that creates an incentivized supply disruption. But Curve, most notably with their 4-year VE curve lock period, has probably some of the strongest tokenomics in the DeFi space, particularly because in 4 years' time, the odds are no one's going to want to. People are going to prolong their locks because there's such an incentive to keep it locked because of the revenue sharing. So, point being, without incentivized supply disruption or whatever crafty deflationary pressure a protocol comes up with, inflation is going to be cost value destructive. So it is a bit unknown what's going to play out with Visor and Method. To top it all off, they're not the primary developers of Alchemist. So what does that mean? Who are they? I speculated that they could be all friends of friends of friends. It's a small, tight knit community. These Solidity developers and Python Viper developers, for that matter. So maybe that's the case, but we do not know. That's speculative. So there's quite a difference between quantitative data and speculative data, qualitative data. Gut says they're probably close knit colleagues. We do not know. What we do know is what's available on public source control repositories. Advisor and Method have, there's development there. Predominantly, they're yield farming contract additions and or modifications. Visor has also forked the contracts required to interact with Uniswap v3, but there's no development or no contribution to Alchemist, at least as observable um, in GitHub statistics pages. So there's no upstream contribution. There's only a downstream forking. Um, and also, the bottom line is Alchemist is cranking ahead with significant commits. So their GitHub repository has significant activity. From the high level perspective, the Alchemist repository is highly active. The Visor repository is a fraction of the activity, and it has nothing to do with the core protocol. It seems like they're strapping on modifications to basically consume what Alchemist created, and even the degree of activity is even to a lesser extent with Method. Last I checked, I didn't see the V3 contracts fork for interacting with the protocol, which was dropped pretty much yesterday. So, I'm not here to nitpick or FUD projects. I'm here to be rational. And these are quantitative details that I'm pointing out. The emission schedule for Method, 2,000%. The emission schedule for Visor, a couple 100%, 300%. For the Visor Eth pair are dilutive or they have a debasing effect. We know that. That's just the way it works. Anyway, let's keep the story going. Let me hit up some questions. Let me make sure I'm hitting on everyone in the stream. Ready for your daily dose of alpha from Noah? Well, there's a little bit of alpha. Alpha Finance one day when their V2 protocol gets back online. Ooh, the Doctor of Rationality and Reason. Thank you. Thank you, Naked. Costco executive member. Smash them likes button. 65 people in the stream, 32 likes. We can do better. Angelo's in the house. Dr. T, always a pleasure. Mrs. Hacker, good morning. Congrats on your new ENS. I discovered Keeper. What do you thinking about diversifying some dollars there? Give 30% APY. So it's dollars, and Keeper has proven to be um, a place that consumes provided liquidity very effectively. Keeper DAO is an extraordinary platform. Um, so there's no reason you can't allocate capital there and get emissions denominated in Rook. I speculate that Rook could be very valuable. I myself experienced the value appreciation from $65 to about 800, and I think Rook is worth many thousands of dollars. And there's no reason for me to dissuade a person from allocating capital towards Rook. Um, I don't see the deflationary pressures. The Dow doesn't exist, so there's an instability in their monetary policy. It has a decaying inflationary emission schedule, which is fine. As I said, that's Bitcoin's schedule. Um, so I expect volatility. If there's increasing supply, the only thing that's going to trigger price appreciation is increasing demand. Whereas with a deflationary pressure, you could have the same or even less demand, but there's less assets in circulation because of the deflation, which basically causes more demand than supply demand imbalance. So I very much appreciate Rook, it's important that I mention this topic, and I'm not going to digress too much into it, but you can't own everything you want to own, and just because an asset is awesome doesn't mean you have to own it. And that's to no discredit to the awesomeness of the asset. Quite fond of what KeeperDAO is doing. I don't have a capacity to participate in it. I think the best thing to be said is there's opportunity cost, and for me, in participating with the Rook asset, because I think there's better opportunities elsewhere, and not necessarily a better opportunity meaning more lucrative. It's just a better opportunity that reflects the way I want to create my portfolio, the way I express my view of the markets with my portfolio. I'm not able to express my view of the markets by having a Rook position. That's the bottom line. And that's also a lot of the ideology and logic and rationality and reason that went into why I no longer have a Visor and Method position. I expect Visor to go very much parabolic and probably Method as well, riding on the coattails of Visor. Visor has some nice documentation out. It's pretty. Um, But what's going on with Alchemist is on a whole nother level. They created the software. Um, that's it, and that's overwhelmingly meaningful to me. Enough so that I'm not FOMOing the the speculative gains that advisor is going to experience, or even method. I don't need it. I don't need the gains. I don't need to make as much money as possible. And the reason I love that ideology is because it's contrarian. If you, I like to do things the opposite of one, what other people typically would want to do, and two, what human emotions say to do. Human emotions see an opportunity and they're like, capitalize on it. Oh, this thing's going to go up huge. Let me put a huge amount of money in it. How well does that work out? How often does that work out? Doge is going to go to the moon. Let me put whatever in it. And just I do want to do the opposite of what everyone wants to do because the vast majority of people don't manage their money effectively. So I love contrarian ideology. So if I think something's going to go up, that's the last reason I want to hold it. I need substantial justification based on due diligence. And for me, at this point, due diligence points me to Alchemist. If you follow the Discord, follow their GitHub. Their GitHub activities on fire. Their Discord, they're working significantly on marketability, and they're going to capitalize on NFTs with very impressive uh, artistry and graphics, and that's significant. They cranked out their website relatively quickly. There was no website for a bit. When I saw the project, there was no website, and now there's a D app, a web app to interact with their smart contracts, and it works great. Nothing unexpected or overwhelmingly missing, in my opinion. There's a shortcoming with MetaMask and the signing of 721 signatures, I believe. Uh, but besides the technicalities of it, you can't use a ledger device with these NFT vaults yet. No doubt MetaMask will fix it, but that is just a reality. So suffice it to say, no visor, no method position, and a one of the largest risk-on positions I've ever done with Alchemist. It's about 155 mil fully diluted. So there's basically they don't have any assets non-distributed. So if you look at fully diluted for visor and method, uh, you know, there's assets that are in circuit. That someone has assets, and it's not, you know, there's no guarantee that these types of observations are overwhelmingly meaningful, but that's the truth. We don't know who the developers are, and that introduces a degree of risk. We know who the developer is for Alchemist. It's the same person who wrote the code for Ampleforth, and that person has write access to Ampleforth repositories, which means clearly the is associated with the history of Ampleforth, which has a history. So there's a track record, which increases trustworthiness. Trustworthiness. And this is not to the discredit of the potential speculative trustworthiness of the visor and method team. They have to prove themselves. If they prove themselves and the opportunity presents itself, sure as hell I'll take a position. Maybe they introduce some technology that Alchemist isn't capable of. They can be innovative. That's exactly what Sushi Shop did when they tried to pivot away from Uniswap, forking their code. Same process. But until I see an overwhelmingly clear narrative, until I see something that is just so darn obvious, um, I have to stick with empirical, uh, quantitative data, and that's what I see. This thing it's a heck of an opportunity because you guys saw what Visor did the other day. It was up like 300% or something in a day, and it's pretty much holding the position. And that's basically based on just slapping a user interface and slapping an incentive program on top of Alchemist that's distinct from the incentive program that Alchemist has. Alchemists also, their emission schedule is significantly less. You're talking significantly less than what Visor and Method have put out there. Anyway, Let's answer some questions in the stream, and I could keep going on this topic if folks want. Angelo, nice seeing you on Method Discord. Yeah, so I chime in. I'm more than happy to chime in. I'm not overwhelmingly. I'm not that type of person that jumps on trying to create FUD or ask questions to try and ascertain the validity of a project's narrative. But I will ask questions and participate and answer people's questions. No reason not to. Saw a bunch of people shilling Noah over Advisor and Method Discord. Gotta love it. So I, so I like, I like the projects. I just need more. I need to see more, and that shouldn't be a bad thing. That should be a goal for teams to reach critical mass, to show persons that have a capacity to understand what they're doing, why they're doing it, and how they're doing it, to show them more. And it's not a bad thing that I'm saying what I'm saying, the stream about those projects, but let them show us more. Not branding, not beautiful Medium articles, because technically the Medium article that the advisor did is exactly what Alchemist does. It's the exact same technology. It literally is Alchemist. So what does that mean? What more value does the project have? Maybe let them say, we're going to get this out before Alchemist. We're going to add different vault options faster than Alchemist. Maybe they could iterate faster than Alchemist. And that's a great reason for the project to have merit and stand unto itself as compared to Alchemist. And that's fine. So make it public, put together some very crafty, attractive tweets, and set your project apart. And then that's the type of information that I'll be looking for to form rational opinions about the reality that they're forks of the root universal vault standard, which is Alchemist. So that's okay. That's the way we have to proceed rationally. Dr. T, knowing your current DeFi salary is X, what percent do you project going down in the next crypto pair market? Well, curve will depreciate significantly. Well, what's a bear market? Folks like to think of the market in terms of black and white. There's no such thing as black and white. I know for certain that this time is different for countless reasons. I can't completely rule out a significantly depreciative cycle, but all I know is we now have the capacity to protect our value using crypto dollars, which means we need to, one, have a good portion of our portfolio allocated to crypto dollars. As of right now, I'm 18% crypto dollars. And we also need to have a capacity to not love our assets so much. If you see a significant trend shift, a significant narrative change for the broad crypto space, sell your assets for dollars and sell them for dollars faster than someone else can. That's what you do. You have allegiance to your portfolio, not to an asset. Just remember that, folks. You're not. You got one. I say this to my family and friends all the time. You got one shot at this to do it right. And if you're going to hold an asset while it's going down in value, you're doing it wrong. You don't want an asset to go down in value. You don't want, all right, I'm going to hold it because I love the project. No, that's not why you're doing this. You got into this space because you love an asset and you expect other people to love the asset, and it's going to go up in value because it has systemic meaning. It has contributes to infrastructure in some really meaningful way, and that's great. Then it's great to love an asset, but you let go of the asset if it's depreciating. You don't have to own everything you want to own. Your allegiance is to your portfolio, and that's the proper way to behave. And your portfolio is an expression of the way you view a market, and the purpose of your portfolio is for yourself and your family to take care of them. So treat it with respect. Don't don't disrespect your portfolio by loving an asset. How about that? People love people rode XRP down from $3 to 20 cents because they loved it and they think it's going to change the world. But in the process of loving the asset, they were completely negligent and disrespectful to their self-fiduciary responsibilities. Anyway, I need this reminder on FOMO. I am weak, stay. There's always better. Pursue better, and that's okay. It's okay to FOMO, but you have time. I don't care if Alchemist goes to 300, if it's going to 2,000, it's going to 5,000. So you have time to extend due diligence and rationality and reason. Use your logic. Patience. What's the emissions for Alchemist? Basically, very small from what I saw. I allocated value because I wanted to mint the Crucible, because the NFTs could potentially be valuable unto themselves. Um, and I took it out because I don't want the impermanent loss. And I'm actually just holding Alchemist risk on, which is something I don't do. I did that with Rook, and Rook basically, I've only had, I do count the two episodes. The first episode that changed my portfolio forever was Kyber, Bancor, and Synthetics in March of 2020. And then, so that set up a foundation of capital that allowed me to pretty much blast through a DeFi summer. And then Rook. Was massive allocation of capital. That was completely irresponsible, an irresponsible allocation of capital. But the narrative was on point, and actually the technicals were too. I was closely following the technicals because I was much more nervous at that time. It was a very large allocation of risk on, and the technicals were spot on. They looked wonderful. There was a solid floor. If folks remember me talking about it, it was so solid. And we were talking like falling wedge, breakout, triple bottom on this solid floor, if I recall correctly. And that's astounding technicals. And it played out. Um, Nowadays, I wouldn't apply that percentage of the portfolio. Currently, my Alchemist position is a fraction of that percent. Interestingly enough, dollar denominated is probably around the same amount of allocation. That's just how much the portfolio has grown. Um, so I'm risk on Alchemist. I don't do this often. Take it for what it's worth. This will be the third. This is the third time in the last 2 years that I've ever held anything risk on that's not working. And I don't, and then I'm not in an LP position because I don't want the impermanent loss. I never talk about that. Like, how often have you heard me talk about impermanent loss? And I'm afraid of impermanent loss because of how much an asset is potentially speculatively going to appreciate. Most of the time, I'm like, I love impermanent loss. Ethereum, USDC, all the way. Cap the upside, restrict and protect the downside. So I don't take risk on positions. That's not my common story that I get to tell you guys. Um, you're welcome, Miss Hacker. It's always a pleasure. Wow, I'm missing a lot of comments. You guys are going strong. The only plan is there is no plan. That's right, Benz. That's what Alchemist guys are saying. That's right. That's the deal. I am JD. Sir Noah, thank you very much. Welcome, welcome. Alex, are there emissions for Alchemist? Yes, they are, as I mentioned. Rob, missed emissions seem fairly low at the moment. Any worries impermanent loss will offset gains and missed appreciates? Yes, impermanent loss will significantly cut into gains. That is standard impermanent loss conversation. Under normal circumstances, if an asset is depreciating, impermanent loss equates to impermanent gains protection to the downside. But that's why I'm holding it risk on at this point. I have no risk on positions in my portfolio, except at this point, Alchemist. I don't do risk on. But if I see an opportunity, particularly with a timeline, this thing literally has a timeline of Uni V3 launch. And how many thousands of people are going to start Googling this thing? 152. And they're going to figure out what it is, and it's going to ramp it up. If this thing goes to five, 600, $1,000, a 10x, and whoopee do, it's at a billion five. It's barely on the first page of the top market cap. Let's keep it going. I wouldn't say they were shilling no so much as giving credit where credit is due. Thank you, Brad. It's not about shilling. It's this is what I talk about. It. I just like to be rational. James says Polygon Matic thoughts on layer two, undervalued or overhyped? Undervalued and not overhyped. Uh, what's pertinent about Matic is or Polygon is that Aave and Curve are there. It's you guys are about to witness DeFi Summer 2020 on Polygon, which is fascinating. It's going to be an outright degenerate experience, albeit we're going to see a lot of ports of the Ethereum implementation over to Polygon. So it's not necessarily going to be full-on degeneracy like Binance Smart Chain, um, because you're probably going to have the large players relatively quickly porting their protocols, which is fascinating to see how that's going to work out. All I know is Curve is cranking out like 100% APY on stablecoins. I got like 180 grand on that bad boy, and I'm like, yeah, get some Matic incentivized emissions, double win. Angelo, well, it's good to have healthy questions, even if it's not positive every time. Well, questions are sentiment agnostic. It's not about being positive or negative. It's not about being bullish or bearish. It's not about creating fun at all. It's a question is a question, and if there is no answer to a question, then it's a good question. So we got to ask questions. What do you recommend, minting or crucible? I don't recommend anything. I talk stories. I tell stories. It is everyone's prerogative what they do with their capital, and I always advocate significant attention to portfolio balance. If you don't have crypto dollars, you're missing out. There's a significant opportunity cost not holding stablecoins. Stablecoins are incredibly lucrative on Curve. You should be predominantly allocated to Bitcoin and Ethereum in a healthy balance. Bitcoin appreciates at 200% per year, annualized for the last 10 years. Yeah. So anyway, that's a digression from your question. Would you recommend minting a crucible? So the point is, it's not for me. It's not my position to tell anyone really to do anything except tell everyone good financial advice and respect your damn portfolio and stop throwing 50% of your capital into some mega risk on asset. That's how you just destroy your financials. Crypto dollars. That's what I'm talking about. That's where the action is. Dollars. How about that? Mike says, as it relates to Visor missed, do you think it's a winner take all? Oh, there's plenty of room for all, but that's the kicker. It's all Alchemist. Visor is Alchemist. Method is Alchemist. They're the same platform. It's the same code. They forked it. So take it for what it's worth. Maybe take it for a grain of salt. Maybe it's nothing, or maybe it's something. And that's exactly what you guys said shortly ago. That's the question. I don't know the answer. Maybe it's something, maybe it's nothing. Demir, well, my man, Demir, how you been? Once you open my eyes on UniV3, it's so glaringly obvious that I am shocked that the majority of crypto Twitter is absolutely clueless. So it's like with Rook, there was players that were in it like November. It was late November. It was like $12. And they ripped a quick couple 100% up to the 60, 70, 80, 90. I'm never that early. I don't tend to allocate large swaths of capital to those kind of market cap assets. I kind of wait for some sort of solidification of the narrative. And Chico is much earlier than me. That boy does some serious research. But obviously, I've done my due diligence and I acted on my own narrative. I didn't follow his narrative. I didn't investigate it, particularly because he mentioned it. I found it because of the Uniswap V3 documentation. And you guys remember I was posting that on Twitter and referencing uh, towards the end of the article, the Medium article, was talking about third-party providers are to provide NFT LP position management. And then I started to try and understand who the hell is going to be doing that, who's building. And you probably remember my tweet saying, who's building on L3 to manage these LP positions? And lo and behold, I actually found Visor and Method first, and then I dug into the repositories and saw that they were forks of Alchemist. So Alchemist did all the development, did all the hard work, and it was the same developer who built Alchemist that built the original code for Token Forge V2 on Amplify. Quantitative data. That's not opinion. Those are facts. Let's keep it going. Got a lot of comments. Jashansky. Uh, can you say more about V3 opportunity in general? Um, Well, sure, there's opportunity in allocating capital to LP positions, um, but so you're gonna have some. We'll see what happens with regard to competition with Curve, and because with the capacity to isolate a particular part of the curve, Uni V3 positions will theoretically be able to have the same behavior as Curve pools. We'll see how that plays out. What we know is that network effect is overwhelmingly meaningful with regard to humans, psychology, and emotions. So curve is what it is. It's entrenched. Is V3 going to disrupt the narrative and the social entrenchment for curve? I highly doubt it. Even if it has the same exact uh, uh, negligible slippage for like type assets, I still don't think it'll disrupt curve, particularly because every time in history we see something new come along that's even better, it doesn't disrupt the already existing system. It doesn't disrupt the status quo for a bajillion years. How long has it taken for electric vehicles to disrupt the oil and the legacy auto manufacturers? Better part of 100 years, because there was electric cars in the 1900s, like the turn of the century, 1890. You go look up the auto shows. They were predominantly electric cars. So it takes forever for status quo to be disrupted. So yeah, I don't think Curve's going to be disrupted. Is my point. Alchemist is on Binance chain, right? Nope, nope. That's probably missed, but there's missed. So they're both the same ticker symbol. But if you look at on CoinGecko, it's Alchemist. This is so I had this up because someone else did it before. This is an alchemist. This is an alchemist. Watch. You go here and you go mist. Alchemist, not mist. This is Alchemist at 152 bucks. That's a heck of a gain today. What do you think about a permanent loss for Visor staking right now? Oh, you got crushed. So I had everything I had in Visor. I literally I bought like 50 grand worth of Visor and it went to like 220. And by the time I was done with impermanent loss, it was like $120,000 gain. So that was a heck of a rip. So I very happy to have participated. But the narrative has changed, and I can no longer justify the position. That's just the bottom line. So bear in mind, you guys see that I made that capital, or hear that I say that I made that capital. I got hammered over the weekend, boys and girls. It was six-figure losses for Sunday and Monday. So it was nice to make back some of that capital. Um, Syrup, impermanent loss. Ain't it a burden, but it's also awesome to the downside. So that's often neglected. Franz says, time for Digi. Over 18, 19 cents, and DigiByte's going to go bazonkers. It's not bullish. It's not. And in fact, the last rip that you folks saw to like 14 and change smacked right into the 200 EMA on the, I think it was the weekly or the monthly. Straight up technical breakout failure. Trevor, my man, in the house. Jashansky, what are crypto dollars? Stablecoins, USDC, GUSD, USDT, so on and so forth. What are the functions of the BIST tokens as of now? Nothing. What we have is a monetary policy, and in theory, what's nice is that it has relatively low inflation. So at least it's stable. It's not actively being debased, whereas Visor and Method have significant debasement going on. It's a significant inflation schedule. So what all these protocols need is a deflationary pressure. They need incentivized supply disruption. Kyber was one of the originals that hit that very strong, and Bancor came around with their Vortex, very deflationary. So we need ways to balance the monetary policy. You can't just buy assets because they're offering 1,000% yield, which is why the vast majority of stuff on BSC, Binance Smart Chain, is absolute trash because they're getting debased, monetary debasement. The same thing we talk about with U.S. dollar and the Fed printing all that money. That's what they're doing. Unless there's deflation, deflationary protocol properties. What exactly is a crucible? It's an NFT. So it's called the Universal Vault Standard, as coined by either at the Ampleforth level or the Alchemist level. but you're able to have an NFT and you're able to add assets to it. And then what Alchemist created was a way to take the assets deployed in a person's NFT, and they're able to deploy it strategically to various AMM LP positions and take advantage of a variety of opportunities using selectable configurable strategies that are not going to require a gas transaction. It's just going to be a signature, to my understanding. Gas savings, crazy sauce. Yeah, just very exciting what's about to play out. And you know, look for that asymmetrical appreciation, because when the asymmetry hits and it goes parabolic, that's when you're taking gains. It's not personal, it's business. You take your gains. If something's up 200-300%, you're taking gains. Allegiance to your portfolio. Do you think Visor will dump hard after hype of V3? Yeah, well, Visor, Method, and Alchemist will likely correct significantly. What I know for certain is that Visor and Method will correct significantly more than Alchemist. The inflation schedule is immense. You get a 2,000 plus percent inflation or emissions on Method, and Visor has several hundreds of percent emissions. And that's meaningful. So once the narrative fades and the demand for the assets fade because there's no deflationary monetary feedback loop, folks are going to unload those assets. So Alchemist has the most likely chance of not having a significant sell the event because the emissions are not massive. It's actually relatively small. Fully diluted is 152 mil for what? Alchemist? You gotta get that at Zerion, 157 mil currently. Pretty cool. Captain Weber hooking it up. I appreciate it, my friend. Sam, Noah, just out of curiosity, MPH, this fixed yield protocol is not that young anymore. I was wondering if you had researched it a bit. Yeah, MPH is cool. It's been on my radar. Um, I haven't had an overwhelming desire to take a position, a pool position, or whatever, a fixed rate position. I'm just guys. Unfortunately, I have my biases, and I'm big into curve. I bought curve at 25 cents, boys and girls. I got a massive curve position given its current valuation, and that allows me to get maximum boost directly on the pools, which means I get curve emissions. If you don't have a massive curve bag, you're going to urine, because then you're going to get auto compounding and you're going to participate in the boost that's offered by the entire community. So you can get massive boost on your urine V1 curve positions without having to own curve. And then there's that new protocol that's launching called Convex. So Convex is the same thing as urine V1 curve vaults, but you actually get your curve emissions. And what they're doing is they're aggregating the VE curve. So they're doing the same thing that urine does with YVE curve, but instead of getting compounded dollars, instead of urine automatically selling the curve emissions for dollar compounding, you're going to get your curve emissions here, boosted curve staking. So this is pretty cool. I like this platform a lot. I don't need to use it because I already have maximum boost. But for persons that don't have a capacity to boost the crap out of their curve positions, this is a wonderful platform. Convex Finance. Eyes on. I don't think it's available or launched yet. They're doing an airdrop for VE curve holders, which is going to be lucrative. But that's the deal. Any thoughts on Kyber DMM? Yeah, Kyber has significant potential, and I'm curious to see how the deflationary component of the protocol has been effectively triggering deflation. So they were one of the first with their staking and their burn component. They actually have a burn component of transaction fees. Um, but, 2020, they were ripping. They ripped like 10x. And they got hammered after September. September 2020 was risk off until January 2021. Very specific time frames, and it was very obvious the 2020 the September risk off event. 24-hour sword. You could look back and you maybe find streams about it, but the 24-hour sword in CoinGecko was like, bam, it was obvious. It's DeFi summer, and it was not DeFi assets ripping. Nowadays, we got full-on crypto madness. This is the bull cycle. DeFi, interestingly enough, you see non-DeFi assets rip significantly. And my expectation is all that leads back to DeFi. It's all about financials, boys and girls. That's the narrative. That's the macro narrative that matters, and that's what's in the DeFi spaces. Financials, currencies, digital fiats that have inflation, deflation, and monetary velocity. Boom. Do you think Alchemist will release something for Uniswap V? Of course. Guys. That's what this whole stream was just about. I don't, just saying. That's exactly what this whole stream was just about. Alchemist is a Uniswap V3 NFT LP manager, the Universal Vault Standard. That's exactly what all of this narrative is all about between Alchemist, X Token, and then their asset that they're building, which has its merits unto itself. And I have a nice position in X Token and Visor and Method. This is all about Uniswap V3 NFT LP management. That's the deal. Um, Alex, my man, it's all good. 12:24. I went over. This was a hot topic today, Wednesday, April 21st. 86 people in the stream, 46 likes. Yeah, I'd say we could do better, but we did pretty darn good. I really appreciate it, everyone. I thank you so much. If you have any questions, hit me up on Twitter. Throw them. Welcome to join Noah's office hours. I'm on as much as I can be. I'm swamped, but if you want to talk to me, you will be able to talk to me. And I'm more than happy to talk about any topic. It's not about assets. This is about financial financial responsibilities, fiduciary responsibilities. This isn't about making as much gains as possible. This is about making reasonable gains and managing your finances in a sustainable way to grow your wealth. The way people used to operate in the 60s, we're going to bring it back to the roots. That's exactly what the crypto space has created. They've rebirthed manageable finances where you can actually take responsibility and manage your finances and pursue retirement, which you're not going to do with a bank account. What I miss? Method will be building on Polygon and BSC first, then Uni V3. That's interesting. So I saw speculatively in Discord that Method was talking to Polygon folks. Wonderful. But you saying, just note the subtleties and the semantics. Method will be building on Polygon and BSC first. That's one, that's a speculative statement. Two, all I saw in Discord was Polygon. Three, all right, fine. That's great and bullish and all. And for me as a value allocator, when I see the products unveiled on Polygon and BSC, then their narrative has been proven. Until then, all they are is speculation. Don't have any products because they didn't build Alchemist and they didn't build their product. Their product was a fork. So we haven't seen anything significant out of the project yet. That's the bottom line. What are you planning to, Nate? Hey Noah, when you planning to mint a Crucible with Alchemist? Of course. I minted a Crucible with Alchemist, an NFT with Visor, and an NFT with Method. Why not? But these are all personal choices. I don't advocate or recommend anything. That's the deal, Rupert. Thank you all. Wednesday, 12:26 p.m. Tell everyone to subscribe. Reach out to me if you need anything, and I will catch you all tomorrow. Peace.